Hello everybody and welcome to the Microsoft Data and AI South Florida user group. My name is Adriano, your host, and I thank you very much for being here with us, engaging the community and learning. Now, if you're watching us in real time in the live stream, please take a minute, subscribe, and use the live chat so you can enter your questions to the presenter, interact with other attendees, and engage the community. Now, if you are watching this presentation on demand, please take a minute to use the comment section to enter your questions, and we will follow up with the presenter subsequently here. As such, today we will be talking about SQL versus NoSQL and moving data from a NoSQL database to the cloud via Azure Data Factory. As such, we are honored here to have a great presenter. Hello, Diponkar Paul. How are you?
I'm doing it, Adriana. I'm doing very good. Thank you.
Good to hear. Tell us, where are you located at?
Well, I'm in actually Toronto.
All right. Shout out to Toronto here. Thank you very much for being here with us, making the time to deliver some great content. Now, can you tell us a bit about the presentation?
Well, yeah, it is more about, understanding the difference between SQL and NoSQL. And then, we will have the two demos in this section, in this presentation. So one demo, we're going to learn what is NoSQL is. We'll write some code in MongoDB, and then when we'll have the database and the collections ready, then we're going to move those to the cloud in Azure Cloud with Azure Data Factory.
Fantastic. Sounds very exciting and quite interesting. And as I even mentioned lately, it's going to be kind of a little bit at the beginning of a battle between SQL and NoSQL, so people can become familiar with the NoSQL part. Most people are familiar with SQL, right? So,
Yeah.
all right. Without further ado, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Excellent. So it's all you now. Thank you.
Thank you, Adriana. I'm going to share my screen. And
Awesome.
I'll also,
I can see it.
I'll also, stop my video.
It's good. What I'm gonna do here, I'm also gonna shut off my video here.
Oops. Okay. Thank you everyone for joining the session. It's great to have all of you here. Well, as you see the title by looking at it, and then before we start, I'm gonna talk about a bit about me. I've been working as a data engineer or BI developer or data warehouse developer, whatever it's in different industries, more than 12 years. I like to work with the community. I used to lead PASS, Toronto PASS. Now, when PASS is away, then I'm actually leading Toronto Data Professional Community. I get diverse background, have been working in, Nordic countries like in Denmark. I study in Sweden, UK. Now I'm in Canada. So, and also I'm father of 5 years old boy and husband of a beautiful wife. You always put the beautiful, when you say about your wife. And I do blog and speak. Let's start. What we're gonna cover today? We're gonna cover, we since it's SQL and NoSQL, most of the people know SQL, but we're gonna refresh our memory with the traditional SQL, and then we're gonna talk about, what is NoSQL. Then we'll have a demo where we're gonna present that demo. We'll do the demo with MongoDB, and then you're gonna compare it. Okay, what is the difference between SQL and NoSQL? And then we'll talk about the Azure Data Factory bit of theory before we move into the other demo where we're gonna move the data, like the database we will be creating at the first demo in MongoDB. We're gonna move that to the cloud by uh, Azure Data Factory. So that will be the last demo. Okay, we're going to refresh our memory with SQL syntax. As you see, this simple syntax, what it does is it's get the ID, product, and price information from the product table where your category is a byte. And when it's come to SQL command, you have 4 different type of SQL commands. One is DDL, which is when you create your table, like create, alter, drop. All those are under this category. And then data manipulation language means insert, update, or select. And then we also have the DCL, which is data control language. You grant and revoke access. And then you have transition control language, TCL, where you do commit, rollback, and set point. Very first point in SQL is well-defined schema. So you have to have the well-defined schema in SQL. So for example, you create a table and you say this is product ID, and then you got a integer like data type you have to say. Even for example, when this is a varchar, you have to say the length of the column. So that is like a well-defined schema. That is you need to have for SQL database. The second one is relationship. You must need to have the relationship. Think about the customer table where you got all the customer information you list, like name and email address. Could have more columns. Also think about the product. You got a product information, and still this to table actually does not bring any business value until unless you say, okay, this customer bought this product, the price was this, right? So you need to have the base table here, like for example order table here. So if you look at this order table and say, okay, customer ID 2, which is Anderson, and the product ID 2, which is City Bike. So it means if we actually join these 3 table, we can say Anderson bought City Bike, whose price was like $1,000, right? So that is something in SQL you have to have, which is normal, like relationship or normalization when you design the database. And there are different type of relationship, one-to-one relationship, one-to-many, and many-to-many. So for example, here in this example, school will have only one head teacher. That is like one-to-one relationship. And then school may have more than one teacher, which is one-to-many. But many-to-many is like, say, in any school may have many students and they take like different lesson, physics, chemistry, or math. And then think about this same physics can be taken by more than one student. So that is like many-to-many relationship. Now we talk about NoSQL. I remember like when I was learning fast, I thought, okay, what is NoSQL? Is it not SQL? But actually, it's rather opposite. Means it's not only SQL. It can do whatever SQL can do, also more in NoSQL. For example, the list here I put is like all the vendor name from the NoSQL database, like you got MongoDB, Azure Cosmos DB, and Amazon got the document DB. Also Oracle and Google also have their NoSQL database. So NoSQL is getting really popular. When it's come to NoSQL database today, we're gonna talk about or look at the MongoDB. MongoDB became popular in 2015 when from the 2015 actually when it appeared in Gartner Magic Quadrant. It used to be using a different transitional database, like as like for a different application. Nowadays, actually it is using in the big data landscape. Well, it's not a transactional. It means to say, for example, when you build the application, you can have the MongoDB database as a backend database system, but that is like when you do the application development. Now it's like in the big data landscape, it is also very popular. Now is how we call them. So for example, in database, we call the same SQL or NoSQL is the database, but when it's come to collection, sorry, the table, we call table in SQL, then we in NoSQL we call the collection. And this information stored in the table, right, all the records, is called the documents. If you remember, we talk about SQL, that SQL have defined schema, well-defined schema, but NoSQL, you don't have to have the well-defined schema. Look at this, the first record where ID, name, age, and the second record has an ID, name, and this age is not a null value. If you're coming from the SQL background, you can think, okay, is it a null? No, even this column is not exist. So one record is like this, other record may have even not that column as age. Even think about last record where your ID and then the age is a kind of invalid record. Sometimes you may have as a bad data because it has ID and age. It doesn't make really any sense because there's no name or any other information, but it could happen. So it's like, no define schema. You don't have to define any kind of a schema. Then when it's come to NoSQL, it's the relationship. As we talk in SQL, you have to have the relationship, but here you don't have to have the relationship. Say on the left side, if we design the NoSQL database as SQL, then it will be like this. So, for example, here you've got user table, got name, age, and user table, and then you've got a profession table where you got a profession, developer, data engineer, actor, and then you need to have a bridge table to translate that. Okay, this user said Tom Hanks, his profession is developer. Even user one, again Tom Hanks, his profession is data engineer. Very similar, like Tom Hanks' profession is actor. But in NoSQL is very simple. You don't have to really build on the left side what we have shown. It is simple that you can embed that the second table, like for example profession table. So you got an ID, name, and age, email, then you got to have profession, so developer, data engineer, actor. That's how you do it. You don't have to have the relationship. This is, I have listed all the tools when you're going to work with the MongoDB. Here we're going to use the Robo3 tool. This is a simple simple tool to start with. If you start new with NoSQL, I would recommend to use Robo3D. You can also MongoDB and Atlas. You can use those. And when it comes to language, like in SQL, you got only the one language, but here you got different options. You can write in Mongo Shell, Python, Java, Scala, Go, and many more. So you have, if your background is from C# or Python, you can actually work with the NoSQL database. Okay, let's start a simple demo. So we got Robo3D. So that is Robo3D. What you're gonna do is first you're gonna create this is something, create a database and the table. So we already see there is a two database, but say we go there, new connection, and open shell, and I'm pasting this code. This is something interesting. In SQL, actually, you have to write the create database statement to create database. But here, if you put as a use and the database name, says South Florida is our database name, and it's gonna create one if it is not there. Let's look at this. Oops. Okay, so we have created that, and if we go refresh it, for example, see South Florida database has been created, and there is a collection. As I said, we call collection for in NoSQL, And if you go, we got a view documents, and we can see this is the product which has been created. Because if you remember, like we inserted the data, ID, name, and the price. Let's do a little bit more. So this case, we're inserting that data related to Tom Hanks. We're going to see that embedded things, right? So if you select and execute that, and you'll see collection. So if you refresh it, we see the user table, right? So we created the user table and inserting it. So you see the view document, you're able to see Tom Hanks and those information. Now we can do, the embedded, if you remember, we did. And embed the object means you got a user information, name, ID, age, email, and then you got a profession. It is embedded there. Now, if you run it, you're going to see how it looks like. So if you do commands, and you see, so you get a Tom Hanks information, his name, age, and email address. Then profession is embedded here, developer, data engineer, actor. And not only that, say for example, you'd like to embed inside the kind of nested one, right? So say for example, here you got a profession, and then you connect cars, how many, what type of cars, cars you got, and then inside that, look at this, you got to make and year and color, and here make and year, there's no color, but it's still, if we run it, you'll see the data. So you get a profession here, and the cars, inside the cars, and then you got this value, make, year, and color, and then you got to make an year. That's been said, it's here. We can, this our NoSQL demo is done here. Now we can move to, for example, the things we created in NoSQL database in my local PC. This is my local PC, you see. The next step is we're gonna get this, whatever we created, to the Azure cloud. So let's start the presentation again. Okay, before I'm jumping into there, so what we learn or what we get to know about the SQL versus NoSQL is, so SQL is uses schema, but NoSQL is a schema-less. Now see, I put as schema agnostic, means if you know, you can build a schema, okay, better you build a schema. But if you don't know, it's okay. You can, I mean, that's the reason you have the NoSQL where it works without a schema. But if you know, it's best to have the schema. And the relationship, you don't have to build the relationship, but again, you can still design the relationship. And data distributed in multiple tables, as you see, it is one table embedded. We just learned that. Now, as I said, what we learned is we created the MongoDB database, and then we have, our plan is to move the data to the ADLS, which is Azure Cloud, by using the Data Factory. Before we, do that demo, we just need to have a bit of understanding, theoretical knowledge. What is Azure Data Lake? This is actually, it's a scalable data storage. It's a HDFS compliance, and you can integrate it with Azure Active Directory, and it is also Microsoft PaaS service and big data solution. So we learn what is Azure Cloud, but what is Azure Data Factory? It is a ETL tool. If you work with the Microsoft or other technology like Software SSI is there. Now Azure Data Factory is the cloud-based ETL tool. It's a code-free is in the Azure cloud, and it can do a lot of different things actually. Yeah, before the demo, we need to have a bit more understanding or what we need as a prerequisite. Of course, you need to have Azure account. You have to have the Azure portal access, and Azure Data Factory resource need to be created. You need to have the link services and the integration runtime. I'm going to talk about a bit what is link services and integration runtime. So link services is nothing but connection string. So if you'd like to connect, think about we have the database in local PC, in my local PC. Now I would like to move that to the cloud. So you need to have the link services, and then what is like that is the like kind of you have to establish the connection string. That is link services. But when it's come to the integration runtime, it is computing in Azure. What it does is it connect link services and the Azure Data Factory activities. So for example, you would like to do copy, and then you need to tell to them you need to use the integration runtime to do the copy activity. I'll also tell a bit details by drawing a diagram. Okay, before the demo, as I said, I think because for some people who are doing this for the first time, it will be difficult to understand. So I'm going to take, a paint and do a drawing, a small drawing. So for example, you have this, sorry for my drawing. So this is MongoDB, right? MongoDB. And this is our cloud Azure Data Lake Services. And we are using Azure Data Factory as a ETL tool. So what we need to have, for example, this is MongoDB is in my local PC. So you need to have that integration runtime. There are like three different type of integration runtime, but here we're going to talk about we need this self-hosted integration runtime. So this is self-hosted integration runtime, and for ADLS, you got you only need the integration runtime here. The self-hosted integration runtime is required because even that need to install in my PC. So if I look into self-hosted, see, this is Microsoft integration runtime. So this has been installed in my PC. So actually it can connect from my PC to Azure services. And then the next component you need is link service. And here also you need a link service, which is a connection string. For example, you're in ADLS, then you need to connect with the ADF. So where actually, as I said, link service and the integration runtime together can work with that activity in ADF. So if you have a copy activity here, so copy activity, you must need to have that integration runtime and link services. Is a very similarly, this is your source. You need to have self-hosted integration runtime if it is an on-prem, and then you have the link services. You also need to have one more thing, which is called dataset. You need to have the dataset here. Means what is dataset? Dataset is nothing but think about, you're making the connection string with the database. So, but maybe when you are copying it, you only interested to copy one file or one table or one collection. That is your data set. Hope you got a bit clear understanding here. Now we can move to our portal. See what we're doing here is this is our Azure Data Factory, and you see there is a copy activity. I have already built this, but let's build. I'll run this, after. But I would like to show you guys to how to build this. So for example, first, what you need to do is you need to create a pipeline, right? We say pipeline Florida. Right. And then what you have to drag and drop is the copy data. As soon as you drag and drop the copy data, look at here, there's a source and sink. It's looking for something. So you have to say, okay, where are we connecting from? Source. You see, this is my data set which is created, but we can completely do new data set. And here, this is Microsoft have enabled this by providing you this MongoDB connector. This is your MongoDB connector. You have to say this is my, okay, now see, as soon as I put it, I got the source data set which is already created. And now I can show you how we can do this. For example, this is your link service which has been already created, and we can see like how we're gonna create that also more. For example, the collection name, say if you see you can see that user table we created. But say for example you would like to create a new link services, you can do that. Say link service MongoDB, and then you need to have a connection string. What is connection string for? Okay. Oh, sorry. Before even connection string, I have to say this is self-hosted integration runtime, because that is getting the data from my machine. What is the connection string? Connection string is nothing but this one. See, if we have this, say, minus connection, you see, this one you have to put the connection string. So if I go, I think I have saved that connection string. Sorry. And yeah, so we have, as soon as you put that connection string, and you need to also give the database name. For example, what is the database name we saw? Database name, for example, here, South Florida. South Florida. Let's see if it works. Okay, it didn't work. Probably the connection string is not right. But for example, if we look at the existing one, that link service we have. So if we go test connection, you see this connection has been successfully completed. We can probably go here and find out all those connection string, the link services. So for example, this one is for the MongoDB. I don't think I'll be able to copy this, but as you see, like this is your connection string from here. I put it there and you get the connection. Now we go. The next one is creating your data set, right? So that is the data set. You already have it. So MongoDB collection. And then we gonna get, say, okay, let's say open it, right? You open it and you see this is your collection. This is your data set. What you say, this is my user table. So as I said, data set is after, you make the connection, then you said this is our data set as a table you would like to bring to. Now we're gonna do the next one, which is the sync. What you're gonna sync is, now you're gonna sync to the data lake storage, right? So that is the cloud, Azure cloud. And you know that your NoSQL is a JSON. So you have to do this, choose the JSON. I can choose that link services already. Here, I can say this is MongoDB and choose it. Okay. And that is how you actually create the thing. So what is happening is it's getting the data from your MongoDB in the local PC or on-prem server, and then it is moving it to the cloud. Now let's run it, right? Let's run into it, what happens. So this one, you see the source and saying debug. You click the debug to run it. It is running. Okay, it's done. So see, this is our Azure Data Lake services. So if I refresh it, I can see this is the time. See, 7:63 p.m. That's the one just loaded. We can now look at the data, what has been. So see, those has been loaded, like all the just we have inserted all these things here in the cloud as a JSON file. Okay, very good. We learn how to do it. Now how to move the data from your NoSQL on-prem database to the cloud. Now, one important thing is to remember, MongoDB version. For example, as you say, ADF copy activity, which supported MongoDB, saw that activity. This is right now, it's a 4.2. But you should, whenever you start working on it, just go to this document, from Microsoft and have a look before you work in it. Because I remember when I was doing earlier, even a few months back, it was like 3.7 was supported from MongoDB database, but now it's 4.2. And what I have done, I remember, like I was trying from, one of the demo, then I have the MongoDB database 4.2 or 3, then it was not working because ADF at that time, it was only supported 3.7. But now, the latest version of the MongoDB probably 4.4. But because you're working on prem, you must have the earlier version you work. So this is very good. This is supported by Microsoft ADF. That's been said, I'm end of the session. If there is any question.
So folks, remember, use the live chat to enter your questions here regarding the presentation, and I hope you all enjoyed. We had an opportunity to look at, he covered the database, he gave the scenario on the demo, he showed you SQL versus NoSQL, explaining even the nomenclature. He also showed the database objects out in the Mongo DB. So I hope you all were able to see that. And, carried out the demo and moving the data, showing the Azure Data Factory as well. Am I missing something here, Diponkar?
No, I think you're good. You're good. It's you got to know the difference between SQL and NoSQL, and you got to learn a bit of Azure Cloud and Azure Data Factory. How we're gonna move the data from your on-prem database, NoSQL database to the cloud. Yeah, definitely you cover everything.
Excellent. So this approach here. Oh yeah, there's only one thing you mentioned that I was looking for earlier is, I believe on previous month or just recently in the past few weeks, Microsoft came out with a new connector, I believe.
Yeah.
So that may also help out there for that. I believe the ADF connector.
Yeah, this is like updated one. For example, the one I also mentioned at my last view for the slide, for the connector was there last 1 year, and they have updated it. Now you got updated one because think about the MongoDB is now right now, if I'm not mistaken, that's 4.4. But earlier, even a few months earlier, it was only supported MongoDB 3.7. But 4.4, 3.7, there's a big difference. Now they have updated to 4.2, so it means it will support 4.2 MongoDB. So they have updated that copy activity for MongoDB.
Awesome. Seeing that, as everybody should expect the product, the data factory here, keeping up with the connectors as outside third-party vendor applications also get updated there. So very good to see those changes, and the great work here by the Azure Data Factory team, keeping it up and providing us, with a newer version that simplifies the process as well.
Right.
All right, I do not see any questions here this time. Anything else you'd like to add, Diponkar?
No, I think I'm fine. It was great, speaking at your group. It was really great.
We really appreciate you for making the time to be here with us, to review, prepare this great presentation here and deliver it on a clear and concise manner. Really appreciate it, man.
Thank you, Ajay.
All right, you just hang on a second here with us as I say take care to everybody else out there. Really appreciate your support. Remember, if you're watching here, you're watching the presentation on demand, like it, share, and use the comment section below to enter your questions. We will forward to the presenter. And have a great day, you all.